Record. Okay. Now we're going to start. Let's go with that. Okay. So everyone sees my screen, right?
Yep, sure do.
All right, so I'm going to minimize this. Go away. Okay. Okay, so so usually there's a big revision or a big thing with each version. The big thing in LabVIEW 2020 is this new idea called interfaces. I will try to explain this sort of, and I'm going to do a horrible job at it. So, please, if you're interested in this, please, look at the resources that we're going to talk about. This is an example that ships with LabVIEW, so you can look at that. So what an interface is, it's a class without private data control. And what you can do with it is now you can do multiple inheritance. So, and that's kind of neat. Personally, I've come across that where I didn't know what it was called, but I kind of wanted that feature. So I'm kind of excited about this, this new feature. So to create an interface, you just right click on the computer, you say new, and you go to interface. Interfaces are denoted, as you can see, this is kind of not filled in. So this is regular class, and this is an interface. Notice it doesn't have any private data control, meaning in a class, you usually have, not usually, you have, a control that contains your private data. Interfaces don't have that. Interfaces cannot inherit from a class. They can only inherit from a LabVIEW object. Interfaces, I believe, can inherit from interfaces. Look at the better explanation than what I'm giving right now. Okay. Okay. So in this example, here we go. So we have multiple tools. And I've sit in the presentation and that Stephen Mercer left and hopefully I'll try to do this well. So we have these different tools, and here we have a tools class. We have these different tools. And each of these are inheriting from, I'm going to do this really badly, so bear with me. So for example, we created a generic class called prying tool. That inherits from tool, and it also inherits from our interface called lever. So now and then the pry bar inherits from prying tool. So pry bar and bottle opener now will get the methods that are declared in the lever tool, so the lever interface. So the interesting thing here is the multiplying, the pry method. So this is specific to the lever interface. So now all these, pry bar and bottle opener, where's pry bar? That now has, now I can override, now I have a space where I can multiply. If I can override, the multiply force method in the lever interface. So you can kind of create these. So the big takeaway is you can have multiple inheritances. So you can kind of, that's my understanding, and I wish I could explain it better, but I'm not really good at explaining this, but the video that Tom has is really good. He talks about interfaces a lot. And then there's a presentation that Stephen Loftus-Mercer gave that I think I'll probably post in the description of this video, or I'll just post it online, and that has a much better explanation. So, as you can see, all these different, and then open is and then we have this lever method, which is, the pry method. So it can call all these now you know, can call the pry method. So I know I'm explaining this terribly, but you know, that's kind of the thing. Here's a nice, in the release notes, and this is why it's so hard to explain. You know, you have this lever interface, and now all these other tools can inherit from this lever interface. And notice, you know, I can also inherit from tool. So pry bar inherits from lever and inherits from tool. So it's a way to have multiple inheritances. So it's kind of cool. So this example ships with LabVIEW right here. And oh, someone had a question?
Could you zoom in a little bit, Dan, on that page? I don't know if it's easily can do it. Yes. Just so yeah, cool. Thanks so much.
Sorry. I have a big monitor, so it's like, ooh. So but yeah, so you know, so this is the interface right here, and it has to inherit from a class, the LabVIEW object class. Interfaces can't inherit from a class. And then, yeah, you can have these multiple inheritances. So you can kind of group things, you know, in interesting ways. So it's kind of neat. It's very, very hard to explain. It solves a problem that LabVIEW has been having for years. So that's kind of neat. So I'm gonna move this over here and go down the list.
Hey, Dan.
Yes.
In this example, does it show like why this would not work as a class? Like what like you said, the issue that it's solving, can you explicitly show how that issue is being solved?
I can't show that because I'm not good at that. In Tom's video, he shows that.
Okay.
So he shows, it's kind of neat. So he shows, oh, you know, look, so if I try to wire this up, it breaks. And then he's like, oh, if I, you know, create an interface and inherit from it, now the wire will not be broken and it'll work. And so I'm going to refer to that video, and Stephen Loftus-Mercer also did kind of that same exercise. But, you know, he's Stephen Loftus-Mercer. And, you know, Tom, you know, it's a very nicely produced YouTube video, you know, so that's really, really neat. So you have that added production, where Stephen's video is, you know, it's just him talking with no, you know, Tom's got the annotations and all this, he's got all this cool stuff. So it's a little bit slicker and a little bit, you know, better produced. So I would recommend that. Hopefully that answers your question.
I know where to look.
Yeah, it's very software engineering heavy. This will take a little bit of effort to digest, in my opinion. But I think it is understandable. I kind of understand it, and I'm excited because I think I've seen instances in my coding where this would be useful. But just be aware that it's there, and there's better people that can explain it than I can. So, you know, that's kind of where I'm at with that. So, any more questions, comments?
Yeah, I haven't studied interfaces, to be honest. I haven't had the need to use one. I guess I have to. I'll watch that video. I know which video you are referring to, but at this moment, I know they exist. I have, you know, the general idea, but I haven't played with them too much. Yeah, but it looks like a neat feature for abstraction, like really high level abstraction that will give you, you know, these multiple inheritance. But I cannot provide a lot of help for you either at this point.
Yeah. So the one thing that I took away from it, so you've been able to kind of do this in LabVIEW. I just had an idea. But you would have to create a method for, so in your parent class, you'd have to create a method for every single, you know, I don't know what's the right term, but, you know, that a child class would override. Using interfaces, now you don't have to specify those methods in the parent class. You can, you know, so sometimes, let's say I have, you know, 4 child classes, and only 2 of them use, 2 methods that are in the parent class, and the other 2 child classes don't use them. Well, I can create an interface now that has those 2 methods in that are just in those 2 child classes, and I can group, now they're kind of grouped together, and now those can inherit now from the parent class, and now can inherit from this interface and gain those methods. So that's my understanding. I'm probably explaining it horribly, and I could be wrong, but I would encourage.
Yeah, I see your point. I see your point then. Yep.
Yeah, so it's kind of neat. So yeah, but like you said, Luis, I haven't dove into it. There's a lot, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, another usage that I'm thinking right now is probably for hardware abstraction layers, that perhaps you're writing I don't know, like a data acquisition driver that doesn't use TDMS, for example, that use a third-party application, but they share the create, destroy, acquire, read, write. And then you could probably use an interface to, kind of mix both drivers, kind of mix both, methods, and the child classes could inherit from TDMS overrides and this third-party driver. I don't know. Probably I'm wrong, but that's what I can think of.
You should check out Tom's video, because he explicitly has an example that talks. That is his example.
Oh, okay.
So he had, in his example, he had like a DAC that had like, it was a multifunction DAC. So he had his hierarchy split up, like, okay, between analog and digital, and like he wanted to have, some of the encounters, and some of those are common only to like analog and digital. So he had some interfaces to accommodate that. It was neat. I highly recommend. Here, I'll just. I think I tagged the link here. Whoa. Oh, here it is right here. So here's the link. It's introduction to interfaces in G, and it's fantastic. It's just wonderful. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend it if you're interested in learning more about interfaces. So, okay. Any more questions, comments, concerns? All right, moving on. And the example in there. So there's also been some web service enhancements. I'm not going to go into this too much, because I've only done web service a couple times. So this, just know that there's some web service improvements. It's now more secure, so they have secure socket layers, and so if you're into doing the web service stuff, note that there's some enhancements there. Some application builder stuff. There have been. Shouldn't have made that a donut. So there, and I didn't realize this, but all the enhancements are to the package builder. Let's add this. Hopefully I will get. So you can create a new package. And this is not the VI package manager. This is the NI package manager. So you can, I can't remember if we talked about this or not, but now there's some new tools to, you can pre-repair, post-repair, where that is. Oh, custom actions. Oh, advanced. Yeah, so I can add custom actions. Oh, I have to have an executable associated with it to do that. But just note that that's there. You can also have feeds. So, and this is only for the NI package, so you can specify a feed where the location is. So if you have any updates to your package, people subscribing to that package will get a notification that you know, something has changed and you can, you know, update that. So that's kind of cool if you're using the NI packages. Okay. Now the more fun stuff that I understand better. That's interesting. So what's really kind of neat, when you create an enum now, so I'm just creating an enum, I'm editing the enum. Some people pronounce it enum, I pronounce it enum, it's kind of tomato thing. I just added 3 states. So now I can go down to select item and I can just type in something that's in that string and it'll take me right there. So this is really handy if you have an enum that's like super huge and you don't want to kind of, you know, physically, you know, just kind of go through there and select. You can just right click, select item and say, oh, I want 3. Or just use that way. So I mean, it's really, really neat. They also added that to you know, your case structures. So for example, you know, I can go to showcase and I can go, oh, I want to go to 3 and it'll take me to test 3. So it's pretty neat. I think those will work for, I think event structures, they also work for too. Maybe not. Maybe you have to have more, I can't remember. I thought he said they could, but anyway. That's really neat. I think that's a really cool feature. You know, especially if you have like these big, you know, enum sets that you're trying to manage. That's cool.
I need that feature to carry over to test stand because I have that situation over there.
Oh, really? Yeah, maybe that's coming. I don't know. I'm not a big test stand user. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet. Maybe someday, but
yeah, I think it was 17. They added the support of enums. They never had an enum operation.
oh, wow.
And that was huge.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I have a huge enum that's in a VI, but is controlled by test stand. So that would be very helpful from that aspect.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah. So but anyway, that's in LabVIEW 2020. So how exciting. So they also changed the rearrange cases. So now you can just kind of like drag and drop. It's kind of neat. You can delete, so you can also multiple select. So I can like delete multiple cases, which is kind of cool. I just canceled. You know, you can sort. You know, and that's kind of cool because before you just had like the move up, move down, delete. You know, now you can move multiple things around. So it's kind of slick. So I kind of like that. So that's that. Okay. Let's see if I thought I had a. Not main, no, it's something different. Okay. I just gotta do my errors thing. Thought I made a copy of that. Yeah. Okay. Junk. All right, we want to do this. So I've never had this problem, but I guess some people do. Oops. Oh. So if you have a string in your variant, this only works on controls and indicators. Now I can right click it and I can go to data operation, I can clear data. You couldn't do that before. So that's just something that you can do. So this is really, really sweet. Okay. What I wanted to show is this. So they made improvements to the error dialog box. Oh wait, oops. Oh yeah, okay. So they made improvements to the error dialog box. I don't know if you remember, if you had an error, you couldn't really find the root. You kind of had to dig through the VIs to find it. So now I can go to this root cause. So you usually, before they just had this, oh, it's not executable. Well, now this kind of digs down for you and say, oh, dependency is broken, and I can go there and, I can fix it. All I have in this main VI is this, and then it's fixed. So that's new. That the root cause display in the error dialog. That's kind of neat. That's pretty neat. I think it's cool. Let's see, broken, go away. I don't know if anyone's played around with this, but in the array to cluster, right? Yep. So before you had to specify the cluster size, and it was always right here. Now you can just double click it, and it comes up. So that's kind of neat. This item is a ring. No. So I can hide the last item when running. So right now I see all those three. I'm just gonna hit Control M to simulate running. And notice test 3 is not there. And now it is. So I haven't come across where that would be useful, but I don't know. Some people say that's desirable. So, and that you can also access that programmatically as well. Okay, the web services stuff. Oh, this is really, really cool. Shoot, let's go. So they made changes to the dialog for to specifying inheritance. So if I go to properties, I go to inheritance, this is now changed. This is neat. So I think it's a little more intuitive. It's kind of cooler. So just note that they changed that. Probably it's even cooler if I say class. Notice this has changed. So this is really neat. So I can specify the parent class, the interfaces. It tells me what folder to save. I mean, I think this is a lot cleaner than the old way. So it's really exciting. I think it's really exciting. It's really cool. Excuse me. This is kind of cool. We're not going to show that yet. So previously in LabVIEW, I'm just going to do this. In this situation, this whole wire, in previous versions, this whole wire would have been broken. In 2020, only the offending wire now is broken. So now I can just right click on it and I can just say delete wire branch or clean up wire branch or whatever I want to do. And that's kind of what it does. So here's a better kind of illustration of that. This is in the release note. So as you can see, the whole wire would have been broken. Now in 2020, only the offending section is broken.
Does the order you wire it up play into effect of that? So if you were to wire your offending one first, the whole thing would be broken. If you then wire a good one, is it going to show the same thing, or will it still all be broken?
I don't know. let's try it.
Yeah.
So if I did this, and then I wanted to do this, you're saying, what would happen?
Okay.
So yeah, smart. Yeah.
Yep.
So, cool. This is really cool. I didn't know I wanted this. This new feature. So when you create an event structure, you always had this, I can't remember what they call them, event data node on the side, even if you weren't using it. So a lot of times I would just say, okay, fine, I'll just hide it like this. You know. Now you can right click and I can go to visible and I can hide them. That's really, really cool.
That's cool.
They don't work for filter events. So for example, this one will always be visible. So if I say, oh, it doesn't even do anything. Oh yeah. So yeah, it doesn't work for filter events, but it does.
Yeah, because that is part of a filter event.
Yeah.
You can remove that from filter events.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's just to note that doesn't work for filter events, but for, I can't remember what these are called. Static events? No. I can't remember. Shit, I used to know it. Non-filter events, let's put it that way. So that's kind of cool. Another really, really cool feature, which I think is awesome, I didn't really know, and I've run across this a lot, is now we can hide this. If you're not using an iteration terminal, I can hide it. I wonder if that works for while loops. Didn't say in the, yep, cool. Also works for while loops. So I can hide the iteration terminal if I'm not using it. So that's really, really cool. So that is awesome. Okay. So this is, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but when I first saw it in iWeek years ago, I thought it was really cool. So if I have two inputs, or any inputs or whatever, if I press down on the control key, I get this little scissors icon, and I click again, it'll switch the inputs. Just kind of show that a little better. In 2020, that'll also work for if I only have one wired. So if I right click on it, it'll switch the input. So kind of cool. The next one's kind of interesting. So I'm going to save this off. So you can come up here and right click on, you can set the icon to VI name. This is kind of neat. So right now I just named it Junk2 VI, and bam, it changes it to Junk2. So kind of cool.
Yeah, it saves time.
Yeah, I think so. You know, because I name all mine. Like I got it. Like some guy yelled at me, "Oh, you don't use icons?" I'm like, for naming all your VIs. I'm like, I have like a ridiculous amount of VIs. Like if I try to find an icon, I mean, I make icons for my APIs, but like,
right,
just for me, like, you know, text is fantastic. You know, so yeah. Anyway, but I mean, yeah.
For that I use the Goop utility. So I don't know if anyone uses Goop. So what I do is just right click on the Project Explorer, the VI that I want to change, and then the Goop does it automatically. You can set, you know, any color you want, any font you want, any size you want. That's pretty cool also.
Yeah, that is really cool. Yeah, and that's that Goop tool, right? That NI used to be third party, now is NI either bought them or I don't know what they did, but yeah, it's now an NI product, right? That you can, and that's a free one now, right? I mean, before you had to pay for it.
Yes, it's free now.
Yeah,
it's BI Package Manager.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna Just gonna show people. Yeah, it's this one, right? The NI Goop development suite. Right, Luis? Hello? Check, check, check. Uh-oh.
Well, I could still hear you.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just lost Luis. Well, anyway,
Oh,
this
I'm
is.
here. I'm
Oh.
sorry, I was muted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was saying that that is a must for anyone who uses object-oriented in LabVIEW. That provides you a lot of utilities of besides the one that I just mentioned, the icon. You can define any type of patterns to your classes, and then has scripting, and it creates all the methods for you. It's pretty complete. It's nice.
Yeah, I know that it's been around in LabVIEW for years and years and years, and I bought it from what, Symbio. They were another company before. I can't remember who they were, but yeah, I haven't played around with it. It looks very interesting though. So yeah, that's there. So just minimize this. All right, did that. Context help is now, if you have quick drop up, I'm not a big quick drop user because I can't spell. That's just me, but I know a lot of people use quick drop and are extremely happy with it. But now the context help can be displayed with the quick drop dialog box open. So that's kind of cool. There's some other improvements to quick drop. Oh yeah, what was it? Control space, right? Was it quick drop? Yeah. So yeah, so I can have the context help. So now the context help is up at the same time quick drop's up. So I do know myself. There are other quick drop stuff that I won't go into that's in the release notes. So I would recommend going over there. One thing that's kind of interesting that I just was looking at today was, and I now have, they've expanded the error palette a little bit. They've added multiple error palette. So this is a whole new palette called multiple errors. So now you can bundle errors on multiple errors onto one wire. So this is an example, and I'll go over what this is in a minute. But using the, you know, that I can't remember when this came out, the merge error function. If I right click on it and I say retain errors, it'll retain both these errors on this single wire. It uses a JSON string to do that. So you know, the native error was just a cluster with, you know, if it failed, the code and the source text. These new ones kind of use this JSON, and JSON is just like it's a string protocol that's gaining more and more popularity. I kind of think of it. It's kind of like XML. It's just a string protocol. From my understanding, I could be wrong, but that's my understanding. And so you can have now multiple errors on this one wire. So if I hit run, both these errors came up. So what I did was I converted, so I merged these two errors. I just used, if you're not familiar with this, they have this really cool error ring, you know, and you can just drop down and select different categories of errors, and it's really, really cool. So that's kind of neat. So I just created two errors. I merged them together and I said retain all errors. Then I used this function called error cluster to array of errors. And then I'm and then I take this, because right now it's in a JSON string, and then I convert the JSON to original, because that's what this guy likes. And so then I'm iterating through the errors. So if I run it, here's my 2 errors that occurred. So kind of cool. They also added error attributes, so kind of like variant attributes, but I think they can only accept strings. So I'm going to show you this really quick. It's right here. So write error cluster attribute and read cluster attribute. I can also list all the error attributes, and I can remove an attribute. So basically, I can just put whatever I think it's only. I never tried it with another. Oh, it's a JSON value, so I think it's only a string that can take it. Well, let's just try it. Maybe it might be polymorphic. Nope. So it only accepts a string. But notice I have 1 here, and I can set it at 2, and it'll pop up there. So kind of neat. I have it might be interesting. You can embed kind of attributes, like you can say, oh, instead of in that main in the text of the string, you can add like, oh, where this occurred, or maybe some things that how to resolve the error. So that's kind of neat. I'm very interested in that. So that's pretty cool.
I got a question on that.
Yes.
Does that 2 show up in your for loop as well then? The attribute?
It
Or does
does
it get lost once it gets combined?
It does in the JSON. So right now it's not, but if I remove this,
No. If you just add the read attribute after the JSON conversion, does the 2 show up?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's try it. Doesn't look like it, because I have to I converted it out of that JSON format.
Yeah.
So I think if I did, if I bet I did this, it would work. Yep.
I see.
Yeah. So in that JSON, just to give you an idea what that if you don't have that, if I didn't do that conversion, this is what the error dialog would look like. So hope maybe they'll come out with another way to display errors that's a little less clunky, or maybe there's another function here that I'm not aware of, but that's what's available. So remove. And then I can also encode encode an error structure into that new JSON format. So so that's kind of the takeaway there. I think that if you just have 1 error, it's the original format. This should take it, right? Yep. So that's cool. So yeah, if you start doing stuff like this, it converts it to a different. The wire now is now a JSON string instead of and that, just to let people know, is this guy. So this is your typical error cluster. You just have, is it an error, the error code, and then the string. So that's all the error wire is. Now it's looked like they've changed it to incorporate this JSON format. So TSP stuff. Blah, blah, blah. This is cool. I haven't played around with this, but I could see where this would be neat. They have a new VI in the memory palette, memory control, and it's get memory status. So, you can get the total physical memory, memory allocated for LabVIEW, free physical memories. That's a new tool in the memory palette, which is right here, memory control. So that's kind of cool. And by the way, they added this, I can't remember when, maybe last version or a couple versions ago, they added some of these new CPU stuff that you can do programmatically. So that's kind of neat. So kind of cool. I don't know. I don't know this. What is this? GYD, right? So this is a. Whoa, that's cool. Delimited string to 1D array. Whoa, didn't know that was there. That's awesome. I'll be using that. So this is a, what do they call this? Shoot, they didn't bring the, hopefully they'll have it in here. Globally unique identifier string. So that's the format of it. I'm not familiar with that technology, so I can't make any comments to that. This is really cool. Where would I find that? Conversion. Yep. So in here, so I don't know if I've shown you guys this, but I developed, and I've seen other people do it too. It's not unique to me. I'm not the person who made this up. But so let's say I'm not happy with the sequence structure that comes native with LabVIEW, but I have found times where I need like a sequencer. It's been very, very helpful. So I've kind of just made my own. I've seen other people do it. This is not anything crazy. But what I like to do personally is, create this little sequencer. So I, do X, do Y, and what I have done in the past is, and I still do honestly, to do this, do this, do this. And I have all these cases that I can, manipulate. What's great about this is, unlike the sequence structure, I can have shift registers, so I can do that, and then on an add case for values, and on an end, I would just do. Whoops. I would just stop the loop. So, bam. So all this does is it just sequences, it just goes through every single case, and I can add cases. What I really like about this is I can easily add cases. So I can, I can say do Z, add case after, and there's do Z, boom, so it's great. So anyway, so this new little feature now, instead of doing all this mess, we can now, because I'd love to do it in a for loop. Now I can just use this. All this is what this does is enum to array of enums vi. And now I can just do this. Whoa! So this takes this mass and does this, and in my opinion, very, very lot slicker. So that's my use case for it. I'm sure there's others use cases for it, but it's kind of neat to be able to have that functionality. So, and there might have been something in OpenG or something but I wasn't aware of. But that's that. So, oh, I want to show this. So I know some people play around with TDMS files. I've done a little bit. A lot of my customers, aren't that interested in them, but they are a powerful tool. One tool that I really like that I don't know if a lot of people are aware of is, NI makes this, TDMS Excel viewer where Excel can read your TDMS files. When this has been in the language for a long time, NI includes this TDMS file viewer. You can just plop it down and you can run it, and this has changed. So, and it used to be good, but now it's pretty cool. So here you just specify your TDMS file. I don't have one that I can show, but it's a redesigned interface, lot slicker, lot newer, lot cooler. So, you know, as you can see, you know, you get graphs of your values, you get your property names, property values. It's just a really, really cool, you know, quick and dirty tool to look at TDMS files. Because I find, you know, when I'm developing, it's just a great tool. So you don't need like Diadem or that Excel plugin. You know, you can just use this nice little tool and, you know, you can look at it. So it's right here in the TDMS streaming tools. I think that's really cool. So, and then we have the retain all errors. We already did that. Yup, did that. Property index. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Let's show this multi-column list box. I want to do this. List box. So what they're saying is, oh, it's just properties, right? There's some new properties in the multi-column list box. Let's just say that. So, yeah, I don't want to dig into there, but that's in the release notes. So there's some other little things that are pretty buried that are kind of interesting. And that's about it. One thing I did notice in this release, that if anyone's using MATLAB, or what do they call it? Math Script. Math Script functionality is no longer recommended. So now they're saying you want to use the MATLAB node. So I'll just go here, allow. So it's just using MATLAB script nodes. So I don't know if people were using Math Script before. I've come across that in the past. What, excuse me?
Do you have to pay for MATLAB script node? Because the Math Script option you have to pay for.
That's a good question.
Like I'm renewing our contract right now and I've added Math. But if it's no longer required, do I need to instead require MATLAB script node?
That's a good question. Let me see if I have it.
Wow, I remember in the past
There it
where,
is.
wow.
So I have it. I have the professional. I don't have I have the professional version. So
Yeah, same here. Except I paid for Math Script.
I could. Who would I ask? I'd have to post on the forums and see what. How is that? Where do they say here?
You should be able to go through and see what you have installed. If it's a separate thing, right? If it's a separate license, it's going to have something like MATLAB required. If you don't have anything MATLAB installed, then it comes with your professional level.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so that's an NI question. So, because I know they added that MATLAB script node a few versions back, but I remember there was some licensing things to that.
Hey guys, I have the community edition for 2020 and it's in there, so I believe it's free.
Sweet. Okay.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem.
And that brings another good point. I don't know if LabVIEW now has a community edition. For those of you who didn't know, it's a completely free version of LabVIEW. So all the capabilities found all in the LabVIEW professional editions. It's meant for hobbyists and students and stuff like that. If you're a business user, you still need to buy LabVIEW. But just note that they have that now, the LabVIEW Community Edition. So it's free for non-commercial use. So that's kind of cool. So that's what I got.
Another feature, Dan, that probably you missed or you will mention is the links driver. it's now embedded into the community edition. So anyone that it's using the BeagleBone or the Raspberry Pi, yeah, that one, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that they had some problems with that when they first released it. I haven't been following the community edition stuff, but I don't know how it's been going either. I'd be curious to know if, like,
What I noticed, yeah, what I noticed is that they made some improvements, at least for the Raspberry Pi, because when I tested it the first time, I wasn't able to, you know, flash and upgrade the image into my Raspberry Pi, but now there's a new version, and I don't get those errors anymore.
Okay.
So I think they're making progress on that.
Yeah, because I know that, like, when it first came out, that, and I don't know anything about the Links toolkit. I'd never heard of it before so just keep in mind when I explain this. You know, when they first came out, I just read on the forums they were having some problems with it, or it was like an add-on tool, and now it looks like it's like more integrated into the version. So look, yeah, like you said, it looks like maybe those problems have been alleviated. So maybe it's not a problem now. So that's that. But cool. So yeah, so I don't know. So hopefully we're going to get some more LabVIEW users with the community edition. You know, we'll see. We'll see. So that's all I have. Is there anything else that anyone wants to talk about or, you know, share? Right now, since I'm still having my screen sharing, if there's any LabVIEW thing you want to, I can't remember if I've stumbled across any new things. I haven't installed my Reuse stuff on 2020 yet.
I guess one statement to tag on that the links for like the Raspberry Pi. There currently, or at least the last I know, there is no license to use this professionally. You are not supposed to use the Links toolkit for work or a professional application.
Okay. Okay.
So it is only for the community.
Okay.
Now they say that they were looking into how to deal with that, like if it's going to be a paid, you know, toolkit or what. But as of right now, it is a only non-work related toolkit.
Okay. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I've been wondering. I'm just going to bring up this page because this is what I was, because I thought this was like an add-on thing. Oh, the resources tab. Oh, well. Anyway, that's kind of confusing. So I don't even know, but yeah, I don't know what I was talking about. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I don't know like what Raspberry Pi, BeagleBoard, and Arduino are going to do in the professional space. You know, I bought a Raspberry Pi like a couple years ago, and it was very fiddly. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh yeah, this is this is way more work than what I want to deal with. So, you know, I'm curious to see, like, as this, you know, open source boards come out, how, if they'll compete with like an NI CDAC or something. You know, my very, very limited experience was like, you know, the time you save with NI stuff was like many orders of magnitude more than screwing around with this stuff. But it's only going to get better, you know, so I don't know when that, if that ever is going to happen. You know, people start using this stuff for data acquisition applications.
I'm seeing them pop up in our labs. So
oh, really?
They use them for simple LIN control boxes or OBDC control boxes just to control equipment. You know, you put it together with a touchscreen and the whole thing costs, you know, $100.
Yeah.
You know, they got some 20-year-old interns somewhere to program them up, source code control the source, and you know, off they go. So
yeah,
it's making a splash. So NI is going to have to address it at some point.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I don't know what this is going to do to the community, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I see that, you know, but you know, I haven't touched a Raspberry Pi in years, and I only assume it's getting better. You know, so
yeah, I'm seeing Arduinos. I haven't seen any Pis yet, but
okay, yeah, Pi is just a
right.
computer.
Same deal.
Yeah, an Arduino, yeah, I think is more like a has data acquisition stuff. And I had one
Yeah.
a few years ago, but
The Arduino's got a lot more hardware interfaces too. Just off the shelf stuff that you can just buy and
yeah,
just essentially just plug them in. So
yeah.
The downside of Arduinos is that they need to be plugged into the computer for LabVIEW to communicate with, whereas with the Raspberry Pi, it can act as a standalone platform. So it has the same as a Creo in terms of standalone platform.
only in the LabVIEW world, right? You can
Only
develop code
yeah,
for the Arduino and it runs on its own. So
right. You'll have to do that with C or C++ or a different language.
they have their own, right? Actually, they have their own IDE, and there's a toolkit to extend Visual Studio to allow you to program and monitor and do all kinds of fun stuff with Arduino. So there's quite a bit of infrastructure out there for the Arduinos.
Yeah,
It'd be interesting to see how does LabVIEW handle all those shields then if they're plugged into the Arduino. Not because they usually come with their own, for lack of a better word, driver or some such to deal with the shields. So I don't know.
Yeah, for the shields, I believe I don't know. For example, I wrote a driver for a small LCD, 16 by 2 lines, and I had to wrote it from scratch because there was no support for the hats. They call it hats for the Raspberry Pi. So right now there's not a lot of support for those types of boards.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm really curious what this open board landscape is going to affect our industry. I don't know. We'll see. So I don't know what NI is doing to address it, if anything. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe I should ask the guy I'm talking to next week about that. I don't know. So is there any more comments, concerns, questions? Anything you guys want to talk about? Open chat.
I'm drawing a blank, but again, thanks for doing this.
Hey, no, my pleasure. My pleasure. All right. So yeah, we've consumed an hour. So yeah, that's about all I have. So thanks everyone for joining us on the Zoom call. And we'll have if anyone wants to present, or if you know anyone who wants to present, please let me know. We'll probably be doing the Zoom again moving forward. Right now, at some point, hopefully, we'll be back in physical space, but I have no idea when that's going to happen. So that's all I got. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Be safe, everybody.
Yep. Take care.
Take care, Dennis.
See ya.
All right.